Alright, welcome to my first ever draft in the Pokemon Draft League format, as well as my first ever draft analysis video. Pretty much I learned about this format and fell in love with the idea of it, so I tried to join a league. One other person I know in it, everyone else is new to me, but that's okay. They like Pokemon competitive, so that's fine by me. Pretty cool group of people too, I might add. But anyways, I'm just going to be going over my draft, basically, the picks I made, why I made them, and why I think I might do alright this season. I haven't really played competitive Pokemon in a while. I played some in Gen 4 and 5. Pretty much stopped in Gen 6, and then I've played a little bit of Gen 7. But just I think the draft format's pretty cool. It gives you a lot of versatility. You're forced to use Pokemon that aren't just OU. As you can see, there's a tier system on the right, which I'll link something in the description that kind of explains draft formats if you're watching this and you have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, you have to pick Pokemon that are going to fit into these tiers. And then you can see I have a few free slots as well, but I'll kind of explain things as I go. And so, a little bit about the league. NPDL, that stands for New Player Draft League, so this is for people who are pretty inexperienced with the format like myself. I think last season, which I was not a part of, they had 8 or 10 people or something like that, and this season they expanded to 16, so that's pretty cool. So everyone is, as far as I know, is fairly inexperienced. They might be pretty experienced with Pokemon battling, but maybe not necessarily the draft format as much, so that's pretty cool because I am also inexperienced. But yeah, we ended up with, so I said there was 16 people, and we ended up with the last pick, which means we picked 16th. So a lot of the top tier stuff in the draft league format was going to be taken. So I knew there were some things I wasn't going to get, and that's okay. I kind of had a plan for what I wanted to do. And for the most part, it worked out. So, with us getting the 16th pick, I will also be drafting 17th, so 2 in a row, because it is a snake draft, and that kind of balances it out. And so, all my picks in the draft are going to be back-to-back. We will be drafting a Z Crystal as well, so every team gets 1 Z Crystal, and that makes it easier to prepare for because then you know what type of Z Crystal they have, and so you know it's limited to, a few number of Pokemon on their team, maybe even just 1. So I think that's nice. But anyways, we're sitting at the 16th pick, and my first selection actually ended up being Victini. And I did want this Pokemon. I was actually going to go with Victini and Clefable for my first 2 picks if they were both there. Probably wanted Clefable more than Victini, honestly. I just have a lot of experience using it, and I think it would have filled a lot of roles on the team. I would have checked off Fairy, right off the bat. It's probably the best. I would, in my very uninformed opinion, I would say it's probably the best Fairy in the format. I can just see it walling a lot of things. I can play a lot of different roles. Probably the best Stealth Rock setter as well, but it did go a few picks before. But I was able to get Victini, and you can see here I do have some pros on the left of why I wanted this Pokemon. Number 1, it does get access to V-Create, which is, imagine like a Z Crystal move without using a Z Crystal. That's basically the best way to describe it. It's 180 base power. It's just a nuke button. Victini, very strong. I do love Pokemon that have base 100 stat totals. So Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, Victini, all of them are really nice. I like using them. Just because of the versatility they bring. Victini can be a physical attacker, which, most of the time it probably will be, but I can also make it a mixed attacker. I can focus on its special side because it does get access to good moves there as well. And you'll notice a theme on my team too, that I am going to pick a lot of Pokemon that can pivot, basically. I love having Pokemon that can keep the momentum going, so U-turn, Volt Switch, Baton Pass, all that stuff is really great. But number one reason why I wanted to pick this thing is because, well, maybe not the number one reason, but a huge reason why I wanted to pick it was its ability Victory Star. I just think it's really neat. It's going to open up a lot of potential for me in my later picks, simply because, it boosts the whole team's accuracy. So a lot of things that aren't very accurate, but pretty powerful, suddenly become very scary. And that's gonna open up a lot of things in the future. It also is important. I've learned through a little bit of research that you want to have Fire, Water, Grass core, as well as a Fairy, Dragon, Steel core. So this is going to give me a Fairy, or not a Fairy, a Fire, and I think that's a good start to the draft. My next pick, like I said, this is back to back, so I did want to grab Gliscor here. I think Victini Clefable would have been good, but Victini Gliscor is also really good. Landorus T was already taken, of course. I think that was to be expected. But Ground Flying is such a great type, and I do have some good experience using Gliscor. So I quite liked it. I know it does have the 4x ice weakness, but it's got great immunities, and electric and ground, those are pretty common attacking types, and that'll be good to have for some of my teammates that I'm going to get later as well. It's a great physical wall. You'll notice a theme here in my draft where I'm going to get some pretty nice defensive cores, as far as the synergy goes at least. This thing is going to give me a Stealth Rocker. It's also going to give me a Hazard Remover with Defog, so that's good to have already. Its recovery is good. It gets access to Roost, and then it also will have Poison Heal, so passive recovery. Makes it pretty nice to use. It has different setup options, most notably Sword Stance, but I could also run Agility in certain matchups perhaps. And again, this is 2 picks in, and I already have 2 Pokemon that can pivot. Gliscor here does have access to U-turn. He also, I believe, gets knockoff. Really, this thing just can do so many different things, and that's why I thought it was worth taking. I would say maybe it's not worth a round 2 pick, at least early, if I had to guess value. But since I'm not going to pick for so long, I was pretty sure by the time we get to end of round 3, this thing was going to be taken. So went ahead and grabbed it because I did want it. I thought it would pair well with Victini. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next pick. And that was going to be Snorlax. And so, kind of like Gliscor, I think I'm, maybe I could have gotten Snorlax a little bit later, but this thing is going to fit so well on my team. As we get more picks along, you'll see why. But already off the bat, this is going to give us a nice defensive core with Gliscor and Snorlax. Snorlax being more special, while Gliscor is physical. And the nice thing, too, is that even though this is a normal type, it will resist Ice, which is going to be Gliscor's 4x weakness. Its move pool is just pretty vast. There's a lot of different options I can do. If I could bring a different Snorlax virtually every week if I wanted. I can set up with Belly Drum. I can set up with Curse. I can run a Rest Talk set. Just lots of things. I can pretty much make this thing do whatever I need it to do that week. Its only weakness is fighting, so far Victini and Gliscor take on fighting types very well. Really, this thing just fit nicely, and I could see it. I do like tanky Pokemon, a little bit of bulk, but they also have the option to be pretty offensive as well, and whether that's with setting up or just having natural good stats in their attack or special attack, I do like using those types of Pokemon. So with the 4th pick, we're actually going to grab Mimikyu. And I thought Mimikyu was a good choice here. It's my first free slot. So you see at the bottom there, my remaining points just went from 400 to 280. Basically, those tiers up there, you got to pick all those tiers, and then your free slots are going to be Pokemon within tiers 1 through 5. You only get 1 Mega. And then those points, each tier is assigned certain points. So Mimikyu is a tier 2 mon, so it's worth 120. Excuse me. And I just really like Mimikyu, honestly. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, and I think the typing is really great. Ghost Fairy. I actually didn't know this, but in doing a little bit of research, I think there's only one Pokemon in the entire game that resist both Ghost and Fairies. So with its dual stab, it's going to be able to hit pretty much everything for neutral damage, which is insane. Obviously, you know about Disguise and how good that is. It gets priority in Shadow Sneak. It gets Shadow Claw, which has a high crit chance. Play Rough. Really just lots of good things. Setup, it gets Swords Dance as well. So, I have some bulk there with Gliscor and Snorlax, but again with these picks, I do have 3 of them have setup options if I want to run a setup set of some kind. So that's good. It gives me options to where, so far I'm being versatile. I can bring these mods, and they could have setup options, or they could just be a different set. Really, the opponent's not going to know, which I think will be nice. It does help with the Fairy Dragon Steel Core. I finally have 1 check there, so that's good. Fairy's just a great offensive type too. As I was kind of learning through this, I forgot how good it is, honestly. But another thing too, this will help me with having a spin blocker, of course. When you have a Ghost type, that's important. Especially good if I can predict a rapid spin and I have Disguise, because then I can just start setting up or doing Mimikyu things. So moving on to the next pick, at this point I really wanted to solidify. I pretty much had my next 2 picks in mind, and I really was wanting to solidify my defensive core. I think is where we're going with this. Yeah. So my next pick here, Vaporeon. Definitely wanted a Cleric on the team, and again, I kind of picked a Pokemon I like a lot here. Vaporeon is my favorite evolution. Used to be Umbreon, but lately Vaporeon has really grown on me. And this thing is just going to be a great support mon. Bulky waters are always nice to have. This is another special wall. It's going to be a lot better for me there. Has a huge HP stat, which is going to be great for wish passing. It gets access to Heal Bell. So far, it's really good. It's gonna give me another component there in the Fire, Water, Grass core, and this is the 3rd Pokemon so far that gives me a pivot option as well. Baton Pass. I could do some fun stuff where I do like Acid Armor, Baton Pass to Snorlax, or something crazy like that, and then start setting up with him. That's going to open up some stuff. Inflicting status is important. I don't really have anything that does that. Mimikyu does get access to Will-O-Wisp, I believe, but Scald with the 30% burn chance is nice. Toxic is pretty common thing I'll bring, I imagine. Really, this thing just fit well, and the synergy for the defensive core too. With it having Water Absorb, that's going to help both Victini and Gliscor. My first 2 picks, I did have a water weakness. But with Water Absorb, that's going to not only give me an immunity, but something that I can even heal off of as well. So thought that was a great pick. And then on the next pick, I went ahead and picked Fortress. At this point in the draft, a lot of Rapid Spinners were being taken. And I was looking at it. I thought about... I almost grabbed Ferrothorn on the rounds where I picked... I was thinking of Ferrothorn when I was picking Snorlax and Mimikyu. But I wanted those 2 more. And if Ferrothorn fell, I probably would have taken it. It was a tier 2 mon, I believe. Gonna dip down to tier 3 again. So I have 3 tier 3s here. Takes me down to 180 points in my free slots. But this thing actually fits pretty well. Again, with the defensive synergy on my cores here, Snorlax has thick fat, so it resists fire. Really, that's the whole point of why I wanted to solidify my defensive cores now, is that I want to be able to mix that up so my opponent doesn't know exactly what I'm going to bring. Fortress would work great with, it would work great with Snorlax or Vaporeon. Its weakness is fire, and Vaporeon resists that, as well as Snorlax. Gliscor's weakness is ice, and Snorlax and Vaporeon resist that. So there's definitely some synergy there for the 4 times weakness, which I wanted to make sure I had some help there. But basically, I'll be able to do whatever I want there. Obviously, another hazard remover is good. We can set up 3 different hazards. I'll probably be sticking to Stealth Rock spikes more often than not, but it's nice that I have the option for Toxic Spikes. Again, another pivot. This thing gets Volt Switch, which, it's not going to be hitting anything hard, but it's more about the utility of it than anything else. And this does give us our Steel type, so that is important as well. Moving on, I cannot believe this thing was still available at the end of round 7. While the draft was happening, someone actually said, someone was saying in the general chat that we were failures basically because no one had picked this thing. I was really tempted to take it the round before. The main reason I didn't, so you can see here that it takes out all my remaining points. Now the reason why this is legal is because for my last free slot, obviously I couldn't take anything, so normally that wouldn't be legal. But the way the megas work, there's 3 different tiers of megas. If you pick a tier 1 mega, you get 0 additional points, but tier 2 megas will give you 40 points, and tier 3 megas will give you 80. So that's going to be my workaround. But obviously it depletes all my points here, but this thing is worth it. So Tornadus T, I don't have a lot of experience using it, but my team was really, really lacking of fast Pokemon. The highest one at this point was Victini at 100 base speed, which isn't great. It's not bad. It's pretty bad. But you gotta have some fast Pokemon. I was also lacking strong special attackers. Have some good physical ones. Victini could do it. Vaporeon is okay. But really, this thing is gonna be nice for me. Lets me keep some extra bulk as well, as I kind of have a bulky team. Regenerator is such a good ability. It's another pivot as well, so I like that. With then having U-turn, it has some utility with things like knockoff, defog. It's a hazard remover, and because of Victini's ability, if I bring these 2 together, this thing already uses hurricanes regularly. So now that it has Victini on its team, those things are going to hit much more often. And not only is that a powerful move, it has a 30% confuse chance, so that's nice. This thing is just a really, really good fit. It does double me up on the flying type, but I don't really care. Flying is a good offensive type anyways. And one of them has ground, so that knocks out a electric weakness anyway. So I thought this was a great pick. We'll see how it goes, but this was another tier 1 mon, so I've got Victini and Tornadus T in tier 1. And then on the next pick, I went ahead and grabbed Scrafty as well. This is my tier 4 mon, and really I was thinking before the draft I might go for this, depending on what happened, but I had my eye on this one from the beginning. If you know me at all, which like one person watching this video, Chris, my cousin, he'll probably know about this story, but basically Scrafty led me to like my best showdown win ever, so that's pretty cool. But I just think this thing is very versatile, and that gives me a lot of options and different ways to use this thing, which I really like. Its typing is unique. I could run any of its 3 abilities with good success. It gets Intimidate, it gets Moxie, and it gets Shed Skin. So all of them have their uses, and I can really change this thing and mold it to what I want it to be each week. It has great bulk. I believe its defenses are 115 each. Its HP isn't great, but it has good bulk. Again, with Victini's ability, high jump kicks, we're going to be hitting them pretty often. Obviously, if we miss, that's not going to be good, but hey, it's going to be a very accurate high jump kick coming from Scrafty, which is scary. Another knockoff user, which is good to have, I believe. And just different setup options as well. You know, having bulk up and dragon dance and things I can do. Obviously, this is another slow Pokemon. I was just talking about how I don't have a lot of fast Pokemon, but you'll see how we remedy this here pretty soon, the speed that is. And so moving on to the next round, actually, we're going to go ahead and take our last free slot and pick Claydol. And so you'll see there we're sitting at negative 60 points, which means I definitely cannot take a Mega Tier 2, because that would only give me 40 points. So because I took a Tier 4, that does lock me into a Tier 3 Mega, but I already know who I have in mind anyways. My other option, of course, would have been to take a Tier 5 and a Tier 2 Mega, but went this route. I thought Claydol was a good fit. Really just wanted another Rapid Spinner. I've got 2 Defoggers, and I've got 2 Rapid Spinners. So again, it's just about versatility, being able to mix up your cores, do different things. That way your opponent doesn't know what you're bringing. This is another Pokemon, actually, that has a ground immunity. So we already have Gliscor and Tornadus T. And a lot of this stuff is about protecting Pokemon that I expect to, you know... They're not Pokemon, of course, that I'll bring every week, but Pokemon that I'm going to bring quite often, you know, like Victini. Having a lot of Pokemon immune to ground is fantastic for it. Ground is one of the most common attacking types, like I said. So that's awesome. That's another Stealth Rock setter as well. That's always nice to have. It gets access to dual screens if I wanted to be more supporty like that. But biggest reason actually why I took this thing was Trick Room. And that's because a lot of Pokemon on my team can hit pretty hard, but they're pretty slow. So you got Snorlax, you've got Scrafty, and there's going to be some picks coming up. You'll see how they benefit from Trick Room as well. But being able to set Trick Room is going to be good for my team because I don't have a lot of fast Pokemon. And Trick Room, I'm going to have some slower Pokemon that can really take advantage of it. A few things to note as well. Victini does have access to Trick Room, so that could be a niche set I run at some point. And Mimikyu actually gets Trick Room as well, which is a little bit better option, if only because of Disguise, really. I can set it up for free and then go to town with it or something else. So, moving on, I was pretty sure, I knew for sure my Mega was not going to be taken. Really, you know, with 16 teams, I would say majority of their teams had their Mega within the first 3 picks. And then, really at this point, it was just me and one other guy who didn't have a Mega. And I knew, based on what his team was, he wasn't going to be looking at the one I wanted. So anyways, I was able to grab Beartic. It's my Tier 5. I was pretty sure it wouldn't be taken. I wasn't really sure what to do with my Tier 5 pick. I had a couple different options. I have not completed either of my cores at this point. I'm missing a dragon and a grass, and ended up going Beartic. I was looking at all my options, and this thing just seemed to fit what I wanted to do. It actually has a 130 base attack stat, which, believe it or not, is the highest on my team. It's actually tied with Mega Medicham. That's not including Pure Power or Huge Power, whatever it is, but that's still pretty impressive. This gives me a second priority user in Aqua Jet, which is, I think, really important. Priority is a good thing to have. It's another Trick Room Abuser. Its base speed is like 50 or something. So it'll be a monster there. The other option is to actually utilize Swift Swim, which I haven't really talked about this aspect either. I don't have any rain setters as like far as abilities go, but there are a couple other Pokemon that can benefit from this. So Swift Swim can help Beartic sweep in the rain. Vaporeon, if I choose not to have Water Absorb, actually gets Hydration, and so that could be really useful. Just make it to where that thing can't get statused. And then obviously Fortress with its 4x fire weakness, that could really make that thing hard to take down as well. So I can give Rain Dance to a couple different things, maybe utilize that as an option as well to help with this thing's speed. So I think that's good. And really its coverage is just insane. Icicle Crash is a really strong ice move that, again, if I bring it with Victini, it's virtually never going to miss. I think it has like 90 accuracy originally anyways. So with that, it's going to like never miss. And then otherwise, it just gets access to so many good moves. It has Superpower, it gets Play Rough, it gets like Aerial Ace, and just a bunch of strong moves of different types. Just having access to Superpower and Play Rough alone is pretty powerful. So liked this pick. I didn't really think anyone was going to take it. I didn't notice anyone with like Alolan Ninetales was taken, so someone could have tried to use that in combination with Hail, but I really wasn't too worried about it. And then finally we get to the Mega. I was the second to last person to pick my Mega. The other person just waited till the last round because he assumed I wasn't going to take his, and he was right. So this thing, Mega Ampharos, is a tier 3, so it gives me 80 free points. All that matters is that it got me above 0, because it's not like I can pick any other Pokemon at this point anyways. But this will complete the Fire Dragon Steel Core. And this thing, yeah, it probably deserves to be a tier 3 Mega compared to the other options that were out there. But 165 base special attack is real good. Its dual stab is really strong, electric and dragon. It's going to be a little limited move pool wise, but again, this could be another great Trick Room Abuser and another pivot with Volt Switch. So this thing fit a lot of things. I kind of knew going into the draft, I didn't really have like a plan of what I was going to do outside of my first 2 picks. And then I was going to try to base it around that as the draft went along, just kind of see what was picked, what wasn't. I did know there was a couple lower, like tier 2, tier 3 Megas I wanted. I wanted to get a little bit more points to get more Pokemon I would want in the free slots. So this thing I thought fit really well though. If you kind of can build around what you're using in the tier 2, tier 3 Megas, they can still be a huge threat, so I thought that was worth going for. And then lastly, I do have to pick a Z Crystal, and I just went ahead and picked Mimikyu Z. Wasn't too worried about picking a Z Crystal. I more so wanted to round out the team, and I knew no one else is going to pick this thing after I picked Mimikyu. Well, I mean, they couldn't use it for anything. So that's what I went with. If something else had fallen, like, I don't know, I don't even know. I don't really utilize Z Crystals very much anyway. So at this point, pretty much everyone had a Z Crystal. Probably wasn't anything that would have been good anyways. So I just went ahead and picked this. It's just going to be really great for Mimikyu. Gives you a one-time access to 190 base power fairy move, so that is quite insane. So yeah, that is going to round out the draft. You can take a look at the full team there. I think I'm happy with the synergy of the team. I think I've nailed that for the most part. I am a little bummed out. I do not have a grass type. There were a couple grass types I was considering at different points that I thought would either fall to me or ended up picking something that made it impossible based on points.
I actually considered Cradily over Claydol at one point, but ultimately it just didn't work out. It wasn't something I invested in. I am also lacking a poison type, which does make taking down fairies and resisting fairies a little bit harder. Scrafty will have to stay away from those. So that is one concern I have. Also can't send out a poison type to clean up toxic spikes, so that is unfortunate. Although Fortress and Claydol kind of counter toxic spikes inherently, because one is steel and has rapid spin, and one has levitate and has rapid spin, so it's not a huge deal. But yeah, overall pretty satisfied and excited to start the league soon. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. Hope you enjoyed, and go Gators.